My sister declared. I'm quitting, you'll cover my rent. I replied, pay it yourself, and signed a contract for work abroad. An hour later, Mom ordered, don't come home for Christmas until you sign her $200,000 loan. That night, I shut off every bill in my name. 52 missed calls by morning. The text lit up my phone at 2:47 on a Tuesday afternoon. I'm quitting my job, you'll cover my rent. It wasn't posed like a question, and it sure as hell wasn't a plea. It was a flat-out declaration from my older sister, Rachel, the so-called golden child who could stumble through life making one reckless decision after another and still somehow stay on a pedestal in my parents' eyes. I sat there in my cubicle at Davidson and Grant, where I'd spent the last 4 years grinding as a financial analyst, staring at the words on my screen. The overhead fluorescent lights buzzed faintly, and just a few desks over, I could hear Brad pounding away on his keyboard. Everything about the moment felt unreal. My fingers hovered above my own keys as my thoughts spun. For almost 2 years I'd been Rachel's safety net, shoveling money her way. It began with small amounts, $50 here, $100 there, always followed by her promises that it was temporary, just until she got steady again. Then it morphed into covering her car payments, then half her rent, and finally every dime of it once she planted herself in some swanky downtown Seattle apartment that cost more than the mortgage on my house. I was drained, so worn down it felt like exhaustion in my bones, the kind that no amount of rest could erase. So I typed 3 little words, pay it yourself, and pressed send. The second it went through, my stomach knotted up, not with guilt, but with the heavy weight of knowing exactly what storm was coming. Rachel never let things slide, and Mom always backed her. My phone buzzed almost immediately. Are you serious right now? After everything our family has done for you? The words made me laugh out loud, an actual bark of disbelief. Brad looked over at me, eyebrows raised, but I just waved him off. After everything they'd done for me? I'd been out on my own since I was 19. I worked 2 jobs to put myself through college, bought my first car outright with tip money from waiting tables, and built every inch of my independence from scratch. Meanwhile, Rachel had been handed a brand new BMW for her 16th birthday, had college paid in full, and stayed rent-free under our parents' roof well into her late 20s. I didn't bother firing back. Instead, I opened the email I'd been staring at for days. Subject line, offer of employment, Kingston Global Finance, London office. I'd thrown in my application 6 weeks earlier on a whim, gone through 4 rounds of interviews, and last Friday they'd extended an offer. Senior financial analyst based in London, with pay that was 30% higher than my current salary. I had until the end of today to decide. My mouse hovered over the accept button, and for days the guilt had been eating at me. Family ties, the old lessons drilled into me, the idea that good daughters don't run across the ocean, that family always comes first. But Rachel's latest demand snapped something loose in me. I clicked accept. Within minutes, a confirmation email landed in my inbox. Welcome to Kingston Global Finance. Your start date is January 15th. Please review the attached contract. I downloaded, signed electronically, and sent it back. Just like that, in the space of 15 minutes, my whole future shifted course. My phone immediately started blowing up. Rachel again, Mom says you're being selfish. Rachel. I have opportunities lined up, I just need a little more time. Rachel. You've always been jealous of me. I muted the thread and turned back to my work. I had projects to finish, a transition plan to write, and a resignation to deliver. I set a meeting with my boss for the following morning. 3:52, another buzz lit up my screen. This time from Mom. Your sister tells me you're refusing to help. This is not how you were raised. Family supports family. You will step up for your sister, or you can forget about coming home for Christmas. Actually, don't bother coming home at all until you agree to co-sign her $200,000 loan. She has a business plan that will change everything, but she needs a co-signer for the bank. The message on my screen read like a command. You've got good credit. You'll do this. I must have read it 3 times, just to let the insanity of it sink in. $200,000. A co-signature. For Rachel, the same sister who had never managed to hold down a job longer than 18 months, who had jumped from one failed business scheme to another, racking up 4 abandoned ventures in just the last 5 years, and who still owed me about $12,000 she'd never once acknowledged, much less tried to pay back. My hands trembled, but it wasn't fear coursing through me. It was fury. My whole life I'd been the dependable one, the anchor. I was the one who showed up when it mattered, who made the birthday phone calls, who came home for the holidays, who spent hours helping Dad clear out the garage, who listened to Mom ramble about the latest drama from her book club. I was the one who sent flowers when someone was sick, remembered every allergy and food preference, kept our family group chat from going dead. And in return, this was the choice I was handed. I either co-sign a $200,000 crater of debt for Rachel or be cast out of my own family circle. At 5 o'clock sharp, I clocked out and walked straight out of the office. On the way home, I swung by the grocery store and picked up a nice bottle of wine. Felt like the night called for it. Back at my small but spotless townhouse in Tacoma, I poured myself a full glass and sat down at the kitchen table with my laptop. If I was anything, it was organized. I opened up a spreadsheet and started listing out every expense, account, and service tied to my name that Rachel had been leeching off of. Cell phone plan, her line under my account, $85 a month. Netflix, she streamed on my profile, $22. Hulu, another $18. Spotify family plan, her and her boyfriend, no less, $17. Amazon Prime, her profile lived there and she used it more than me, $15. Car insurance, I'd added her 2 years ago when she couldn't afford her own. $240 monthly just for her share. iCloud storage, her phone still backed up to my account since she'd run out of free space, $10. And that wasn't even the half of it. 3 years back I'd added her as an authorized user on my credit card to help her build credit. She'd managed to rack up $8,000 in charges that I'd been chipping away at. $200 a month just to keep that current. Costco membership, my card, but she was the one using it weekly, $120 a year. HBO Max, $16. The joint gym membership, $90. I totaled it all up. I was bleeding out about $713 every month just to support her, and that didn't even include the rent payments I'd been sending her or the emergencies she texted me about constantly. Over 2 years, that came to more than $17,000. Add in the rent, an average of $1,200 a month for the past year. That was another $14,400. All told, over $30,000 of my money had gone straight into propping up Rachel's lifestyle. And now she thought I'd tack on another $200,000? I took a long, steady drink of wine, opened another tab, and started pulling the plug one by one. First stop, the cell phone company. I need to remove a line from my account. The rep asked which number. I gave them Rachel's. When will this take effect? Right away, they said. Her line would be dead within the hour. Perfect. Then I moved down the list. Logged into Netflix and changed the password. Did the same for Hulu, Spotify, Amazon Prime, even my iCloud account. I cut her out of every last streaming service and subscription. Then I rang up my car insurance provider. I need to remove a driver from my policy. Reason: she's getting her own policy, no longer part of my household. Understood, they said, and immediately processed the change. It even dropped my premium by $240 a month. Beautiful. Finally, I dialed my credit card company. I need to remove an authorized user and request a new card number. Any fraudulent charges? The rep asked. I hesitated. Technically, no. But in my heart? Absolutely yes. I just want a clean slate, I told them. No problem, they said. The user's been removed, and a fresh card will be on its way in 7 to 10 business days. I finished the whole list, cutting Rachel off from every last money thread that tied us together. The gym membership, the Costco card, all of it. And by 8 that night I was done, so I poured another glass of wine, flipped my laptop back open, and wrote an email to my landlord letting him know I'd be moving out at the end of December since I wouldn't need the place once I headed to London, then drafted another note to my manager formally giving my 2 weeks' notice to send first thing in the morning, and as I did it I felt strangely weightless, lighter than I had in years. My phone had been buzzing on and off all evening but I'd ignored the noise, and when I finally checked it there were 17 missed calls and 32 texts. Rachel saying her phone wasn't working, asking if I'd messed with it, complaining she couldn't log into Netflix, accusing me of being insane and promising Mom would hear about it, insisting I couldn't just cut her off, swearing she needed her phone for job interviews, even calling it abuse. Mom chimed in with Jessica says you cut off her phone. Call me right now, then childish and cruel, call me now, then you're destroying this family. Even Dad jumped in, Jake, please call your mother, she's very upset. So I flipped the phone to do not disturb and went to sleep, And when I woke up Wednesday, there were 52 missed calls and a pile of voicemails that ran the gamut from angry to hysterical to guilt-soaked to flat-out threatening, with the last one from Mom at 2:47 a.m. landing the hardest. You're just like your father's sister, selfish and cold. Don't come for Thanksgiving, don't come for Christmas. You're not part of this family if you won't support your own sister. I sat on the edge of the bed staring at the number 52 calls in one night, and where that kind of pressure used to make me fold from guilt, now it only proved I'd finally done the right thing, so I deleted the messages without listening to most of them, made coffee, took a shower, got dressed, and headed in because I had something big to handle. At 9 on the dot, I walked into my manager's office. Monica, I'm submitting my resignation. I've accepted a role in London. And her eyes went wide. London? Jake, wow, when do you start? January 15th, I told her, and I'd like to work the next 2 weeks to transition everything. And I can stretch through year's end if you need. She asked to talk it through, wondered if there was a counter they could make, said I was one of their best analysts, but I told her I appreciated it and that this move was right for me. It wasn't just a job, it was the clean slate I needed, so she studied my face and asked if everything was all right, and I said it would be. We spent the next hour building a transition plan, and while she was disappointed, she backed me, and by lunch my resignation was official and the rumor mill was already buzzing. Brad caught me in the break room. London, huh, that's huge, what sparked it? And I kept it simple, just time for something new, while my phone kept filling with notifications I refused to open. At lunch I went to the bank to tighten things up, since I had 3 accounts, checking, savings, and an investment account, and a safe deposit box I'd rented years back for important documents and emergency cash, and I told the banker I needed to update my contact info and beneficiaries across the board, and when she asked who to list, I swapped out the old setup, my parents as primary and Rachel as secondary, and named my best friend from college, Evan Park, as the primary and my cousin, Natalie Ruiz, as the secondary, and she confirmed the changes and noted we could update my address once I had the London details. Then I booked a time to empty the safe deposit box because everything in there, my birth certificate, passport, college diploma, and a few pieces of my grandmother's jewelry, was going with me across the ocean. On the way back to the office my phone lit up with Rachel's name, but I let it roll to voicemail, and then Mom called, then Dad, then Rachel again, until finally a text came in from a number I didn't recognize. This is ridiculous, you need to stop being a brat and help your sister. Family is forever, jobs overseas come and go, signed Aunt Linda. Which made me sigh because of course they were now roping in the extended family, a classic move. Not long after, another ping came from my cousin Alex. Hey Jake, my mom said your mom called and there's some drama, want to grab coffee and talk? And since Alex was one of the few relatives I genuinely liked, I shot back, sure, Saturday works, and he replied, you got it. Thursday dropped a fresh twist when I arrived at work to an email in my personal inbox, the one I barely touched, subject line. From your sister since you blocked me. I opened it and there was Rachel in all her glory. Jake, I don't know what's gotten into you, but this needs to stop. You've always been jealous of me, jealous Mom and Dad love me more, jealous that I'm prettier, jealous I've had opportunities you never did. But this is low even for you, cutting off my phone and insurance, making me look like a fool when my card got declined at Target. You're trying to sabotage me because you can't stand to see me succeed. Well, guess what? I don't need you. I never did. You were just convenient. Mom says I should forgive you, but I won't. Not unless you fix everything you broke and apologize, and you will co-sign that loan, or I'll make sure everyone knows what kind of person you really are. I'll tell your coworkers, your friends, blast it on social media. Don't test me. I read it twice, then calmly forwarded it to a folder I'd set up called documentation, because I had a feeling a paper trail might come in handy down the line, and I didn't reply. Instead, I spent lunch at a storage facility, renting a unit for my furniture and belongings since I'd need somewhere to stash things while I was abroad. I could have sold it all, but something told me to keep options open. By Friday afternoon, my landlord emailed confirming my notice, another thread cut, and that evening I sat with a real estate agent friend and explained I'd be moving to London in January and wanted to rent out my townhouse instead of selling it. Smart move, she said, the rental market's strong, I can line up tenants easily. So I asked to start showing in December, and she agreed. Another piece of the puzzle falling into place. That weekend I tackled something I'd been avoiding. Sifting through old family photos and mementos in the attic. If I was really doing this, cutting ties and starting over, I needed to decide which parts of my past were worth carrying with me. I climbed the narrow attic stairs with garbage bags in hand and sat among the dust and boxes, pulling out albums, school projects, birthday cards. The first album opened to my 8th birthday, Rachel at 10, arms slung around me, both of us smiling wide for the camera. We looked happy like real sisters. I traced the image, wondering when it had all turned, when she shifted from big sister to someone who saw me as nothing more than a resource to tap into. Or if maybe she'd always been that way and I'd just been too naive to see it. More photos spilled out, her high school graduation where she barely scraped by but was celebrated like a Nobel laureate, my college graduation cum laude, overshadowed because Mom spent the day dealing with one of Rachel's crises, holiday after holiday where I was the one cooking, cleaning, planning, while Rachel drifted in late, empty-handed, brimming with expectations. At the bottom I found a stack of birthday cards I'd written to her over the years, cards she must have tossed back to me at some point when she moved. I picked up one of the cards, the one from 5 years ago, and inside I'd written "Happy birthday, Rach. I'm so proud of you for starting your new job. I know this one's going to be the one. Love always, Jake." That so-called job had fizzled out in 3 months. Then I found another card from 3 years back. "Happy birthday. Here's a little something to help with your car payment this month. Things will get better soon. Love, Jake." I read those words and realized how often I played cheerleader, always offering support, always convincing myself this time would be different. I thought I'd been a fool. But sitting there surrounded by scraps of the past, it hit me. I hadn't been foolish for loving my sister, or for wanting to be there for family. The mistake was burning myself down to keep her warm, when she never even recognized the fire I was setting. So I made 2 piles. The small pile held what mattered. Pictures of me and Alex as kids, snapshots from college with friends, awards and certificates I'd earned. Proof of my own life, my own successes, my real connections. The larger pile was everything else. The family photos where I was blurred in the background, the guilt-laced cards from Mom, the endless reminders that I'd been cast as nothing more than a supporting role in Rachel's story. The smaller pile went into a box I'd bring with me to London. The larger one I carried down to the curb with the trash, and it felt like more than just cleaning out an attic. It felt like shedding an old skin, leaving behind the Jake who bent over backward for people who couldn't be bothered to take one step toward him. I wasn't that man anymore. I was becoming someone stronger, someone who knew his own worth. Monday morning at work, I bumped into Margaret, our HR director, in the break room. She'd been with the company forever and had always treated me kindly. "Jake, I heard you're heading to London. That's going to be some adventure." "Thanks," I said. "I'm excited." She poured her coffee, gave me a long look, then said, "Mind if I give you some advice?" "Of course not. I did the same thing when I was your age, moved to Tokyo for a job. Left behind a boyfriend who swore he'd wait, a family who said I was selfish, friends who promised I'd regret it." She smiled, soft but certain. "Best move I ever made." "You know why?" I shook my head. "Because for the first time in my life, I got to figure out who I was without all the expectations piled on me. I got to make mistakes that belonged to me alone. I got to win on my own terms. When I came back 3 years later, I was a different person, stronger, more certain." She reached over and squeezed my shoulder. "Don't let anyone guilt you for choosing yourself, Jake. The ones who truly care will get it. The ones who don't? Well, that tells you all you need to know." My eyes stung and I had to swallow hard. "Thank you, Margaret. I really needed to hear that." "I thought you might," she said with a knowing look. "You've got the weight of everyone else's disappointment on your back. Set it down, Jake. It doesn't belong to you." Her words followed me through the rest of the week. She was right. I'd been carrying everyone's expectations, everyone's letdowns, everyone's needs so long I'd forgotten I was allowed to have my own. The next night, as I was boxing up books, I came across an old college journal. I flipped through faded entries until one from junior year stopped me cold. Rachel called today asking for money again. She blew her paycheck on a new designer purse instead of paying her electric bill. Mom says I should help her because that's what family does. But I had to skip buying my textbooks this semester and borrow from the library, because I'm trying to save for graduation expenses. Sometimes I feel like I'm the only one in this family who has to be responsible. But I guess that's just how it is. I'm the dependable one. That's my role. Those were the words 21-year-old me had written, and reading them now cracked something in me. Back then I'd already recognized the pattern, already labeled myself as the one who carried the load, and I'd accepted it like it was carved in stone, like it was my assigned duty in the family. Looking at it now, it broke my heart. That younger version of me deserved better. She deserved parents who recognized her effort instead of exploiting it. She deserved a sister who gave back instead of taking until there was nothing left. I couldn't go back and rewrite her story, but I could make sure present-day me had something different: freedom. Freedom from the weight, the role, the expectation. I closed the journal and tucked it with the few things I was keeping. That girl deserved to be remembered, not erased. She was part of my path, part of why I was here. Saturday morning, I met Alex at a coffee shop in Bellevue. He showed up with that half-sympathetic look only he could pull off and sat down with a latte. So, he said, "My mom says your mom says you've disowned Rachel and you're running off to Europe to abandon the family." I laughed. That's the official version? That's the official version. And what's the real version? I laid it out for him. Years of footing Rachel's bills, the constant pressure, the demand that I co-sign a $200,000 loan, and finally Mom's ultimatum about Christmas. His expression hardened as I spoke. Jesus, Jake. I knew she was spoiled, but I didn't know it was that bad. Neither did I, not until I actually sat down and ran the numbers. And that loan, come on. What's it even for? Some so-called business venture. No details. Alex shook his head. You know what kills me? None of this surprises me. Your mom's been playing favorites forever. Growing up it was obvious. You could bring home straight A's and Rachel could scrape by with C's. And she was the one who got balloons and cake for trying. Yeah, well, I'm done chasing their approval. Good. You deserve so much better. He paused, then smiled. For what it's worth, I'm proud of you. London's going to be amazing. Thanks, Alex. That means more than you know. What about Thanksgiving? You're really skipping it? Yep. First Thanksgiving I'll spend alone, but honestly, I'm kind of looking forward to the quiet. Come to ours. Mom would love to have you. And you know she cooks enough to feed a battalion. The wave of gratitude that hit me nearly bowled me over. Really? Really? Your family too, Jake. The kind we choose, not just the one we're born into. That week at work, I put my head down and finished out my notice period with laser focus. I documented everything, trained my replacement, tied off every loose end. On my last day, my coworker surprised me with a small going-away lunch. Brad handed me a card signed by the team along with a nice bottle of scotch. For your new adventure, he said. Thanks, Brad. I'll miss you guys. Come back and visit. Tell us all about London. I will. By then, the storm from home had mostly burned out. The endless calls and texts had dropped from a flood to a trickle. In that first week, I'd missed 87 calls. Now it was 1 or 2 a day, usually from Mom. I spent the next few weeks quietly preparing for my move. Sorting belongings, keeping only what mattered, donating bags of clothes, old textbooks, and used kitchen gear. I sold my car, lined up movers to take my furniture to storage. The agent found renters fast, a young couple eager to move in January 1st. Perfect timing. I booked my flight to London for January 10th, giving myself a few days to breathe before starting the new job. When Thanksgiving rolled around, I'd been bracing for regret, for loneliness. Instead, I felt lighter than ever. Alex's family welcomed me like I'd always belonged. His mom, Aunt Patricia, pulled me into a big hug the second I walked through the door. Jake, we're so glad you're here. Your mom's loss is our gain. Ryan's dad grilled me about London over dinner, asking if I'd been before, and I told him once for a long weekend about 5 years back and that I loved it, and he nodded and said it was a wonderful city and that I'd do great there. After dinner, while we were having pie, Aunt Patricia leaned in and said, your mother called me, you know, and I tensed, asking ya? And she explained that Mom wanted her to talk sense into me to convince me to help Rachel, but she shook her head and told me she refused, that she'd said maybe if Mom had raised Rachel to be independent instead of entitled I wouldn't be stuck in this position. And when I asked how that went over, she said about as well as you'd expect. She hung up on me and then she reached across the table, squeezed my hand, and told me she meant every word, that I was doing the right thing, that sometimes the kindest thing you can do for someone is to stop enabling them. And my eyes stung with unexpected tears as I whispered thank you. The week after Thanksgiving, a certified letter showed up from an attorney supposedly representing Rachel, and my heart pounded as I opened it, half expecting a lawsuit, and inside was a demand for repayment of a $20,000 loan she claimed to have given me 3 years ago, complete with a contract that had my name signed in an obvious forgery. So I snapped photos and sent them to a lawyer friend, asking if I needed to worry. And within an hour she replied that the contract was fake and laughably done, and if Rachel actually tried to pursue it she'd be the one in trouble, so she told me to document everything but not to stress, that it was just an intimidation play, so I filed it in my documentation folder, which was getting thick by now. In mid-December, an email landed from Mom with the subject line "One Last Chance." And the body read, "Jake, Christmas is coming. This is your last opportunity to make things right with this family. Your sister is struggling. She had to move back home because she couldn't afford rent after you abandoned her. She's depressed. She cries every day. The loan fell through because you wouldn't co-sign. You've ruined her life. All we're asking is that you help family. If you can show up for Christmas, apologize to your sister, and commit to supporting her until she gets back on her feet, we can move past this. If not, don't bother contacting any of us again. The choice is yours." I read it 3 times, then drafted my reply. "Mom, I've supported Rachel financially for years while she's made no effort to support herself. I've paid for her phone, her insurance, her subscriptions, and sent thousands for rent and emergencies. I calculated that I've spent over $30,000 on her in the last 2 years alone, and that ends now. I will not be co-signing a $200,000 loan for someone who has never shown financial responsibility. I will not be apologizing for setting boundaries. I will not be coming to Christmas. I'm moving to London in January for a job that will advance my career. And I'm excited for this next chapter. I love you all, but I can't set myself on fire to keep Rachel warm anymore." I typed the last line of my email. "I hope someday you'll understand that enabling her helps no one, least of all her. I wish you all a Merry Christmas," and hovered over the send button for what felt like forever before finally clicking. Mom's reply came minutes later. "Then you're no longer my daughter." I stared at the words, bracing myself for the pain, the guilt, the crushing weight of rejection. But instead, all I felt was relief, like a weight I'd carried for 29 years had finally been cut loose. I sent back one word, "Okay," and then I blocked her number. I blocked Rachel's number. I blocked Dad's too. I scrubbed them from Facebook, Instagram, every platform I could think of. Unfriended, unfollowed, deleted. Done. On Christmas Eve, I was sitting in my nearly empty townhouse, everything packed except for an air mattress and a few essentials, when the doorbell rang. I peeked through the peephole. It was Dad. I cracked the door with the chain still on. "Dad." "Jake, please. Can we talk?" "There's nothing to talk about. Your mother is beside herself. Your sister is heartbroken. This family is falling apart. This family fell apart a long time ago, Dad. I was just too busy holding it together to notice. You're being selfish. You're being cruel. This isn't you." "You're right. It's not." The old me would have caved, signed the loan, sent the money, swallowed the anger, and kept everyone else happy while I drowned. But that version of me is gone. "Jake, please. Did you ever once ask me how I was doing? Did you ever think about what this costs me, emotionally, financially, mentally? Did it occur to you that maybe Rachel needs to finally stand on her own? Or were you too busy worrying about Mom's feelings and Rachel's feelings to ever consider mine?" His face fell. "That's not fair." "Maybe not. But it's true." I softened just a little. "Dad, I love you. I do. But I can't keep doing this. I need you to leave. When do you go? January 10th? Will you call when you get there?" I hesitated. "Maybe. Someday. But not soon." His eyes watered, and he nodded. "I'm sorry, Jake. I'm sorry we let you down." It was the first time any of them had ever said those words. Something cracked in my chest. "I appreciate that," I said quietly. "I really do. But I still have to go." He left, and I locked the door behind him, slid down to the floor and cried, not out of grief but out of release. On New Year's Eve, I checked into a hotel near the airport. My townhouse was rented, my furniture in storage, and my life fit neatly into 2 suitcases and a carry-on. I watched the fireworks through the hotel window, raised a tiny bottle of minibar champagne, and whispered to new beginnings. On January 10th, I boarded my flight to London. As the plane lifted off, I looked down at Seattle shrinking beneath me. Everything I'd known, everyone I'd loved fading away. But I didn't feel sad. I felt alive. London turned out to be everything I'd hoped. The job was demanding and fulfilling. My coworkers were sharp, kind, and welcoming. I found a little flat in Notting Hill, small but charming, with a window that looked out over a tree-lined street. I joined a book club, took weekend trips to Paris and Amsterdam, learned the tube until it felt like second nature. 3 months later, I got an email from Alex. Subject line, "You should know. Hey Jake, hope London's treating you well. Figured you'd rather hear this from me than the grapevine. Rachel's big business opportunity turned out to be an MLM scam. She tried to rope the whole family into buying in, and when that failed, she maxed out mom and dad's credit cards. Turns out she had access to their accounts. They didn't notice until the bills showed up. 40 grand in charges. Dad had to take out a second mortgage on the house. Mom's furious, but of course she's still defending her, saying she was taken advantage of and none of it was her fault. Rachel had moved out again, apparently crashing with some guy she'd met online, and nobody in the family had seen her in weeks. Alex's email ended with, "Thought you'd want to know what you dodged by not co-signing that loan. Miss you. Come visit when you can." I read it twice, waiting for the rush of satisfaction, the vindication of "I told you so." But it never came. Instead, there was only sadness. Sadness for my parents, who had enabled her right into their own financial wreckage, sadness for Rachel, who had never figured out how to survive in the real world, and sadness for the version of our family that might have been, but never was. What I didn't feel was guilt. Not anymore. I wrote back, "Thanks for letting me know. That's awful but not surprising. I hope they're okay. I'll come visit this summer. You can show me your new place. Miss you too." 6 months later, a LinkedIn request popped up from Rachel. I stared at it for a long time, my cursor poised over decline. Curiosity won, so I clicked her profile. She'd labeled herself as entrepreneur and life coach. Her photo showed her with bleached hair and fake lashes, leaning against a Mercedes I'd bet money wasn't hers. Her summary was an endless spiel about empowering women, chasing dreams, and breaking free from limiting beliefs. I hit decline and blocked her. A year into my London life, Dad emailed me just one sentence. "I'm proud of you, Jake. I hope you're happy." I typed back, "I am. Thank you." That simple exchange opened the door a crack, and we started emailing every so often, careful conversations about his garden, books he was reading, trips I'd taken, projects at work. We never mentioned Rachel or Mom or the past. Maybe we never would. But it was something. 2 years in, I earned a promotion, Senior Director of Financial Analysis, leading a team of 6. At the company meeting, the CEO herself congratulated me. That night, I celebrated with my team at a pub in Soho. We traded stories, laughed hard, raised our glasses. My colleague Priya stood and toasted to Jake, the youngest senior director in company history. The cheer that followed wrapped around me like a blanket. I felt it then. Pride, accomplishment, real joy. This was the life I'd made. Not the one I'd been handed, but the one I'd fought tooth and nail to build. Sometimes I thought back to that text Rachel had sent. "I'm quitting my job. You'll cover my rent." How such a small, arrogant demand had triggered everything that followed. I had lost a family, but I'd found myself, and truthfully, that was the best deal I'd ever made. 3 years in London, Seattle was barely a memory. I had friends here, a career that mattered, a life full of color. I'd traveled to 20 countries, learned to make Yorkshire pudding properly, and fallen in love with a man named Oliver who made me laugh and never once asked me for a dime. I was happy. Truly deeply happy in a way I'd never been before. One evening my phone buzzed, flashing a US number I didn't recognize. Normally I never would have answered, but something made me swipe the screen. "Hello?" The voice on the other end was hesitant, almost fragile. "Jake?" I froze. "Yeah, who is this?" "It's Rachel." My blood turned cold. "How the hell did you get this number?" "I called your office, told them I was your sister and it was an emergency. They gave me your cell." She paused. "Please don't hang up." Every instinct screamed at me to end the call, but I stayed. "What do you want, Rachel?" I wanted to apologize. I almost laughed at the word. "Apologize?" "I know I messed up," she said quickly. "I know I took advantage of you. I've been in therapy, I've been working on myself, and I see now how much I hurt you. How entitled I was. How I treated you like an ATM instead of a brother. And what exactly do you want from me?" "Nothing. I swear. I'm not asking for money, not asking for help. I just wanted you to know I'm sorry. And that you were right. About everything." The MLM thing blew up. I trashed Mom and Dad's finances, wrecked every bridge I had. Now I'm working at a call center, living in a one-room flat, paying my own bills for the first time. And it's hard. Really hard. But I finally get it. I finally understand what you were trying to show me. I sank down onto the couch, gripping the phone. "What do you want me to say, Rachel?" "I don't need you to say anything. I just thought you deserved to know. Her voice cracked. I miss you, Jake. I miss my brother. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but maybe someday we can talk again. Not now. I know you need space. But someday. I shut my eyes. Part of me wanted to unload on her, to spell out every scar she'd left on me. But anger had no place in me anymore. I'd spent 3 years putting it down piece by piece. Rachel, I appreciate the apology. I do. But I'm not ready to let you back into my life. Maybe someday. But not now. I understand, she whispered. That's fair. She hesitated, then asked, Are you happy? In London? Yeah, I said quietly. I really am. Good. You deserve that. You always did. Her voice wavered with tears. Goodbye, Jake. Goodbye, Rachel. I set the phone down and stared at it, the silence ringing louder than her words. Oliver came out of the kitchen with 2 glasses of wine. Everything all right? He asked, pressing one into my hand. Yeah, I said, leaning into him. Everything's okay. And it was. Really was. Maybe one day Rachel and I would rebuild something. Maybe Mom would recognize what she'd thrown away. Maybe somehow there'd be a chance at a healthier version of family. Or maybe not. Either way, I knew I'd be fine. Because I'd finally learned the lesson I should have known years ago. You can't save someone who refuses to save themselves. You can't burn yourself down just to keep someone else warm. And sometimes the bravest choice is to walk away. And I had walked away. From expectation, from obligation, from guilt. And straight into the life I was meant to live.